Abbott,
Here.
Olson.
Here. All right, we will jump right into our proposed 2021 enterprise fund budgets. We will turn it over to Mr. Vasenik.
Thank you, Your Honor and Counsel. I'm just going to share my screen here. The purpose of this work session, as you mentioned, is to discuss the water, sewer, and stormwater enterprise funds for which we budget for each year. We'll just start with the water operations fund. This is the operating part of the budget, which the primary revenue source is the user fees that we charge on a monthly basis for water usage.
Jeremy, can you zoom that a little bit for us?
Sure.
Thank you.
That's good.
There you go. So the primary revenue source for the water operations is the water monthly water charges that we charge on a monthly basis on the utility bill. Proposed revenues for 2021 are a little over $1.5 million, and that's comprised of a 2.7% recommended rate increase for a consumption rate adjustment from the current $3 per thousand gallons to $3.08 per thousand gallons. And then the base fee adjustments equivalently would be increasing from $11.76 to $12.09 on residential per month, and for commercial from $28.78 to $29.59 per month. Then the other revenue source in there is interest earnings that we're projecting to be down a little bit as the interest rate environment has taken a plummet, I guess, since February. On the expenditure side, expenses in the operating portion of the water fund include a little over $2.1 million. Some of the items that are included there that were identified were $20,000 of various miscellaneous maintenance supplies, including pumps, fire hydrant parts, and so forth. Along with that, property insurance of a little over $15,000, some funding for various consulting engineering, as well as $55,000 for chemical treatment at the water treatment plant, $102,000 for electricity, and about $20,000 for other utilities. We have $25,000 of pipe repairs identified, just as those occur throughout the city throughout the year. $10,000 for treatment plant pond cleaning that's done on a semi-annual basis. $20,000 for rehab of one of the existing wells, as well as a little over $1.1 million of depreciation that was estimated for 2021. Two of the capital outlay projects included some cell replacement at the water treatment plant, estimated about $16,000, as well as replacement of the current turbidity meter with a color analyzer that analyzes the water quality at $40,000. And then in addition to that, SCADA software replacement. This would be upgrading the existing software that's utilized by both water and sewer. So one half of that funded from water and one half of it from sewer at about $250,000 total. In addition to that, we have some transfers out for various future capital equipment funding, as well as what you may recall seeing as part of the governmental funds, the Public Works Security Gate, which is partially being funded from the enterprise funds, the water, sewer, and stormwater funds. So net revenues are actually under expenditures, once again, of a little over $500,000. However, that is comprised primarily of depreciation. So we're covering about 51% of our depreciation proposed for 2021 as well. So then the next subsection that we budget for within the water is our water availability charges. This is the primary funding source, is our WAC, or water availability charge revenues for the year. Not proposing any rate adjustments on those fees. We've estimated 15 new residential homes, and kind of consistent with what we've seen in the last few years, as well as 10 new commercial units for 2021 for a total of $230,000. On the expense side, the only expenditure that we currently are proposing in there is the continued funding that's related to the capital improvement plan bonds that were issued in 2006 for a portion of the Public Works facility. This fund currently has a deficit in it, so that's why we're not proposing to fund any capital outlay added at this time until that fund is replenished. And then the third component of the water is the debt service that's attached to the water treatment plant. And we have debt service of about $567,000, comprised of the two bond issues that were refunded for a portion of the water treatment plant. And that was done originally in 2005 and 2007. And then those were refinanced or refunded in 2013. Of that, about $567,000 payment, about $300,000 is represented by the sales tax payment on the 2007 portion, and then the balance of that is paid from the water operations. Oops. So the next enterprise fund that we budget for is our sewer operations. We have revenues estimated at $1.4 million, which is comprised once again mainly of the service charges that are charged on a monthly basis on the utility bill. The proposed rate increase recommended for the sewer fund is about 2.9%, and that's comprised of an adjustment of the consumption rate from 377 per thousand gallons to 388 per thousand gallons, as well as base fees that would increase from $14.40 to $14.45 per month for residential and $29.07 per month on commercial. On the expense side of the equation, then for the for the sewer, we have total expenditures of $2.4 million, comprised of some consulting engineering as well as electric utilities of $36,000. Estimated wastewater treatment plant charges from Brainerd Public Utilities for the year are estimated at $600,000. We have $50,000 of various repairs and maintenance to the structures, including maintenance on 12 of the air release valves, and a little over $1 million of depreciation identified within the sewer fund. For capital outlay, we have 2 emergency generator replacements identified for replacement at $30,000 each. One of those was originally scheduled for this year and hadn't been purchased and acquired at this point. So that's a carryover from this year's budget. $125,000, as I mentioned earlier, as part of that SCADA software replacement, with half of that being funded from water and half from sewer for the $250,000 upgrade. And $14,700 for various capital equipment funding, as well as, once again, that security gate at Public Works facility that's being proposed. So you can see here the proposed expenditures exceed revenues by $1 million. And right now it's pretty much of a break even where we're not covering depreciation. However, if you recall, there is a significant depreciation on the wastewater treatment plant with a portion of the capacity that we purchased as part of the project with the city of Brainerd. That was paid for initially with sales tax proceeds. So it's one of those cases where we're probably not going to fully fund depreciation in that case, but it's something to certainly be cognizant of as we have future projects that come up, and we need the reserves to be able to pay for those projects.
Jeremy?
Yeah.
Can you go back to that at the risk of making a fool of myself here, but on capital outlay, 120,000 for 2 generators at 30,000 each?
Oh, that's a mistake. Thank you. It's 60,000 each. Yep.
Oh,
that math doesn't quite work. Yep, you're right.
That's my line.
Thank you.
That would be a good deal if we could get it for half the price. So then in the sewer availability charge portion of the sewer fund, once again, we have revenues identified for new residential construction of 15 units, as well as 10 units of commercial. Some investment earnings within this fund, as we currently have funds within the SAC fund. Total revenues of $99,000 with no rate adjustments being proposed on the sewer availability charges as well. So then as far as expenses within the SAC portion of the sewer fund, we have capital outlay of $159,000, which is comprised of a rehabilitation of what would be lift station 14 in 2021, as well as a lift station 11 rehab, the continued closeout of that project of $6,000. And then once again, some CIP bonds that are being paid for the Public Works facility. And then finally, for the Stormwater Enterprise Fund, we have proposed revenues of a little over $1 million. Half of that's comprised of the monthly and annual fee that's charged for residential and commercial usage. Along with that, about a $500,000 grant that we've carrying over from this year that we're proposing to help assist with the Excelsior Commercial Phase 1 project, the funding of the land portion of the project. That hasn't been awarded at this point. So that's something we're hoping to see awarded in 2021 to help fund the initial phase of that project at approximately $500,000. So then on the expense side of the Stormwater Fund, we have various operational costs, including some ditch mowing, MS4 inspections and procedures, engineering, contracted sweeping, as well as some stormwater various repair projects of $100,000. Within the Stormwater Enterprise Fund, we have depreciation of about $315,000. In addition to that, some various projects funding for transfers out that included that security gate as well as future equipment replacements. And then the Section 6 Stormwater Outlet Project of $140,000. And as I alluded to on the revenue side, that first phase of the Excelsior commercial stormwater pond that would be carried over from 2020. So in the case of the Stormwater Enterprise Fund, expenditures exceed revenues by $239,000. When you factor out depreciation, we're funding about 23% of the depreciation within this fund for 2021. The next set of graphs I guess I have here just kind of show a little bit of a history. I think it was interesting to kind of look at this given this year has not been a typical year, and just seeing how those trends kind of are shaking out a little bit when you look at the last 5 years for sewer consumption specifically. You can kind of see here that the orange line is representing the commercial sewer consumption. That has significantly dropped in 2020. The 2020 portion is projected for the last 2 months of the year based on year-to-date amounts. Whereas on the residential side, consumption gallons have actually increased. That gap has pretty significantly closed from where it was at the high, probably more in that 2018 range. Here you can see to the point where that gap is closing, at least for 2020, which is probably something we kind of suspected a little bit with businesses not being operating at full capacity over the last 9 months. But I think it was interesting to kind of note that the residential build sewer has increased about 8.5% year to date. And then looking at commercial, we're down about 10% of the build gallons year to date. If you look at that on water as well, kind of the 4 major categories that we bill for, including the residential and commercial water consumption, as well as the 2 irrigation for both classifications. You can see residential, which is represented by the blue line here, has increased significantly as more people probably have been staying home during the pandemic, whereas the orange line representing commercial consumption has seen kind of a drop off actually over the last couple of years in the actual gallons being billed, to the point where that gap really is almost insignificant at this point now, where we're billing 108 million gallons of water compared to the 114 on commercial water. And then to a lesser degree, looking at the irrigation, water irrigation for commercial is actually up a little bit this year compared to where it was last year. You can kind of see it was kind of a dip a little bit in 2017. Probably should have carried this back a little bit further too, because some of you may recall when we were looking at some of those cash flows in prior years too, we saw pretty significant swings in some of that irrigation too, as recession from 2008 kind of had an impact too on just how much commercial water was being used at that time. But looking at the residential water irrigation too, that's up slightly too. That's represented by the gray line there as well, but a lot less significant in comparison to the other 3 categories. But overall, residential water build gallons is up about 13% year to date, whereas commercial, similar to sewer on the water side, is down about 10% as well. So then looking a little bit at how that impacts the average 6,000 gallon per month residential ratepayer with the proposed rate changes. You can see here, based in 2020 on that 6,000 gallons that's used per month, the 2020 bill would be a little over $73. With the proposed changes, it would be $75.57, or a $2.09, or a 2.8% overall increase for that 6,000 gallon per month user. I did put a little bit more information in here too, just kind of looking at Advanced Engineering does an annual rate survey a little bit too, that kind of ranks the cities that at least that respond to their survey or some of their clients as well. So it's not necessarily all inclusive to Minnesota or to the other areas, but provides a little bit of an indicator at where we are if we want to do a little bit benchmarking compared to where other communities are. Similarly, this first graph is a little bit hard to see on the water portion of it because the dark blue is representing the fixed rate, and then there was a kind of a light blue that didn't copy over very well on the volume rate. But just imagine that bar is kind of extended, kind of similar to where these dollar amounts are shown here, because that's the light blue difference between the dark blue bar and the dollar amount that's not showing up here. But in 2020, so our total rate was, and that includes our $3 Minnesota test fee, as well as the 81 cent Minnesota test fee, as well as our $3 water treatment plant fee, which represented that $33.57 bill in 2020. Based on the proposed rate recommendations, the rate would increase to $34.38, which you can see would move us just slightly above where Isanti was in 2020. This doesn't obviously take into account what other cities may be doing for 2021 as well, but you can see it just moves us down slightly from where we are currently at 33.57 to 34.38, which based on 2020 rates would put us right between Isanti and Hutchinson in that case. I'll just zoom out a little bit here too, so you can see the entire page. So of the outstate Minnesota cities that responded, you can see the range in 2020 was from 1661 in Monticello to Fairmont at $65.62. Similarly, if you look at that for sanitary sewer, we currently we're at $36.65 in 2020, based on a proposed 2021 rate of $37.73. It would move us just between where Grand Rapids and Worthington were in 2020. And these are the outstate Minnesota cities that responded to the survey. So again, by no means does it represent every city on here, but provides you a little bit of an indicator of kind of where we would be amongst at least those that reported to as part of the survey. And then finally, for stormwater, again, looking at some of the outstate Minnesota cities that responded to the Advanced Engineering survey, we currently are at $3.26 in 2020, with proposed 20-cent rate adjustment to $3.46 for 2021. We would still, in this current ranking of 2020 cities, we would still be in the same position between Hibbing and Elk River. So the range on the stormwater side is anywhere from $1 on the low end that was reported by Worthington up to $12.50 reported by Glencoe. So we have some Iowa cities on here as well. That's the recommended budget. I guess, we set aside a little bit of time tonight to kind of go through it initially. And if there's more discussion, we can certainly do that during the regular council meeting. If you want to carry that over, we certainly can carry that over into January as well for additional discussion, or if there's any questions that you may have or other things you'd like us to look at as well.
Jeremy, can you refresh our memories of when we increased last?
We did do rate adjustments a little bit last year on all three of the enterprise funds. I think prior to that, looking back today, the water and sewer hadn't been updated the year before. Stormwater we have been updating pretty consistently, just because the needs have been there, and we haven't had as significant of a fund balance in that fund. I did look back a little bit at the cash flow a little bit from last year as well too, and for 2021 we were projecting initially a 9% increase in the stormwater fund. We did try to back that off a little bit here to that 6% increase. With the sewer fund, we had a 5% projected rate increase on the cash flow for 2021 last year, and as I kind of indicated a little bit earlier, that's now under 3%.
Council, any questions or comments? Oh. Well, nobody likes to see increases. We all attest to that. We've got a couple of options here. Like Jeremy says, we can, it's on the agenda. We could move forward if we're okay with it. We could table it and move it back, talk more in our council meeting, or move it back into the first part of the year if there's more detailed discussion we need to do.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just ask the question if we have just a couple of minutes. I don't know if Jeremy, I don't want to jump you, but do you have any insight or thoughts on where the trend is here? Is this just inflationary, or is there anything control wise that we can be doing or looking at for the future regarding keeping rates where they're at, or minimizing the increases?
Yeah, a little bit is inflationary, I guess, but we're also just with a number of upcoming projects that we're kind of seeing that are coming to light with the repairs of the water treatment plant. And I don't know that we have a full handle on that yet too, as to how much more is going to be coming with regard to the filters and some of the repairs that we've seen there. One of the other things that's probably coming up in the not too distant future either is Brainerd Public Utilities is looking at some major improvements that they're going to do to their tanks as well, that will be responsible for about a third of that cost too. So just kind of looking at trying to minimize that impact so that we're not having to do that all at once. But we don't have all those costs identified even at this point too. But I suspect there's going to be some pretty significant capital outlay within the next couple of years as it relates to both the water and the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, questions? What do you think?
Is there any advantage really to waiting until January? Just make a decision tonight?
I think the only thing would be is if we're not clear about this and we'd like to discuss it or think about it more, ask for more information. Otherwise, the answer probably to your question is no, there's probably not.
Well, I guess I'm of the opinion that we just take care of it tonight.
I'm agreeing.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I agree with that. Hopefully in the future, we won't have to replace software for SCADA. Hopefully, I'm not sure what the life expectancy of that is, but that's a significant hit.
That was initially, from a little I know of it, that was initially installed with a water treatment plant in 2006. So it's one of those things where we're kind of looking at some advantages of being able to consolidate both systems when it comes to both sewer as well as water into one system, and providing some additional ability for notification. So think of it when alarms and stuff go off. So our staff knows more specifically what the issue is, rather than more of a generic alarm, that they can maybe troubleshoot some of those things a little bit more too. So some of the hope is hopefully it helps with some of those items too, as far as call outs and things that happen along those lines as well.
Sure. And if this is something that we can expect to be replaced in another, 15 years, maybe we ought to prorate it out and put some away a little bit, like we do on patrol cars.
I can weigh in a little bit. The original was 1998. The SCADA system was installed at water plant number 2. And then when the new water plant was built, it was moved to the new water treatment facility, both the sewer and the water SCADA system. But there was some upgrades to it in 2006. But the software is 1998 when it was originally installed. So it's got a 20-year life expectancy with it.
Okay. Oh, that's 20,000+ a year.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's on our agenda, so we can look for a motion or more discussion then at that point. At this time, then I'd look for a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
I have a motion by, who was that, Mark?
Yes.
Second by Connie. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Ross,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Tabit,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes, and we will be right back in 2 minutes. Okay, we'll give it another try. It's 7 o'clock and time to begin our regularly scheduled Baxter City Council meeting. Thanks to those of you that have joined us. The first thing we'll do is roll call.
Ross,
Here.
Holman,
Yes.
Licio,
Here.
Tabit,
Here.
Olson.
Here. We are all here and present, so we will move forward. The next thing is the Pledge of Allegiance. We'd ask for you to rise and recite the pledge with us if you will and can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
America.
and to the republic,
Which it stands,
one
One
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God.
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Administrator, any additions or changes to the agenda?
There are none.
Okay. Public comments?
We received one from Justin Barrick this afternoon. It's been forwarded to the council, but as per our notice, I will read it out loud. It states, I appreciate the council and leadership team's deliberation until this point in the budget process and respectfully ask for your consideration of the following in an effort to decrease the property tax levy increase proposed for 2021. In regards to the parks, trails, and ground maintenance budget, in particular, the buildings and structure repairs line item pertaining to the Jewelwood Park sign replacement for $6,800. It states defer this sign project to a future year when a more normal number of Baxter households and business owners have a certainty regarding the future of their business or employment, or when the existing sign exhibits deterioration, rendering them ineffective. As I've recently learned, the proposed 5.5% city levy increase does not impact city residents equally, given the impact that the taxable market value has, of which the homeowner largely has no control over. For example, my Baxter property taxes are scheduled to increase 16% from last year. Some homeowners facing similar increases may currently be unemployed or be an owner of a COVID shuttered business, having anxiety over whether they will survive this period of uncertainty. I am confident that they would appreciate the city pausing some of the previously scheduled routine upgrades and or replacement projects, such as the sign project, as they most certainly are having to lay off employees or cut improvement projects they have previously planned. I've talked to a woman today who is unsure if they'll be able to celebrate Christmas with presents this year, as her husband has not been working since spring. The existing Jewelwood sign is less than 5 years old and still effective in communicating the park name for those who may have questions about whether they're in the correct location. Note, most families with children are using Google Maps, which offers assurance to the parent that they are in the correct or desired location with or without a sign. Mr. Barrick did include pictures to support his position. And he signs the end of the email or letter with a thank you along with his address.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything else?
That is the only public comment we received.
Okay. Alrighty. I'm not sure where we go with that. We typically don't take action on public comments. You want to talk about that later? Maybe Brad, in your time frame there, we could move along.
Well, his request is in direct relationship with an item that's on consent agenda.
Gotcha.
So you'll act before you get to the report. It should be noted that Mr. Barrick did present a list of questions that were presented at the tax hearing on November 30th, which staff had responded. This is in response to a follow-up to that email.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Yes, I'd like to ask Jeremy what a reduction in $6,800 would mean to the typical household.
I could calculate it. I don't know off the top of my head. It would be pretty small given the bigger pie that the taxes are spread across, but I can pull something up, but it'll take me a minute or two.
That'd be fine. If you could get back to us, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we can pull that agenda item, I guess, and discuss it at that time then. Sounds good. Okay, number 6, consent agenda. The following items are considered non-controversial by staff and are recommended to be read and passed in one motion. Any council person, staff, citizen, or meeting attendee can request one or more items be pulled from the consent agenda, and the item will be pulled and addressed immediately after the passage of the consent agenda. Otherwise, the following items will be passed in one motion. A, approve the city council special minutes from November 30th, 2020. B, approve city council work session minutes from December 1st, 2020. C, approve city council minutes from December 1st, 2020. D, approve the payment of bills and finance report. E, approve 2021 meeting calendar for the city council and the commissions. F, accept utilities commission minutes of December 2nd, 2020. G, approve the Knife River Corporation North Central final pay estimate number 14 in the amount of $11,270 for the 2019 full depth reclamation improvements and 2019 Memory Wood improvements project contingent on the submittal of the required final project documents. H, approve the R.L. Larson Excavating Inc. change order number 7 in the increased amount of $29,895.84 for the 2020 South Sanitary Sewer Interceptor, North Forest View Improvements, and North Forest View Stormwater Outfall Improvements project. I approve the R.L. Larson Excavating Inc. partial pay estimate number 7 in the amount of $435,423.32 for the 2020 South Sanitary Sewer Interceptor, North Forest View Improvements, and North Forest View Stormwater Outfall Improvements project. J, approve the R&H painting invoice in the amount of $6,067 for manhole lining and invert repairs. K, approve the Rice Lake Construction Group invoice in the amount of $11,660.75 for the water treatment plant filter repairs. L, adopt resolution 2020-069 establishing polling places. M, approve the appointment of Mr. Brett Hauge in the seasonal position of streets and utilities maintenance and Mr. Ben Kroll to the seasonal position of parks and trails maintenance. And accept planning and zoning commission minutes from December 8th, 2020. O, approve purchase of personal protective equipment for police department using drug forfeiture funds. P, approve the purchase of less lethal weapons using drug forfeiture funds. Q, adopt resolution 2020-070 approving the 2021 property tax levy of $7,256,500.
Mr. Mayor, please pull that.
All righty, pulled by Cross. R, adopt resolution 2020-071 adopting the 2021 governmental funds budget. S, adopt resolution 2020-072 adopting the 2021 fee schedule. T, approve the purchase of K9 and related costs using the drug forfeiture funds. U, approve the police encrypted radio additional $39,500 cost from the capital equipment fund and transfer of $5,900 from the general fund to the capital equipment fund.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Cross,
Second.
second by Tabbitt. Any other further discussion? Roll call.
Cross,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
VCO,
yes,
Tabbitt,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. And we will go back to, was it Q?
Correct.
That was pulled. Mark?
Yes. Jeremy, did you get a chance to figure that number?
Yep, 1 second here. Let's see. It looks like based on a $6,800 reduction in the levy, the proposed tax rate would decrease just slightly, about less than a half a, or excuse me. What's the amount here? It'd be 0.05%. So for $175,000 home with no change in valuation, the proposed city taxes would decrease by 84 cents on a $6,800 reduction in the levy.
Well, I guess I'm personally of the opinion that for 84 cents a piece, I'm willing to keep up with maintenance on our parks and, make sure that we don't get behind in that, because I know what happens when you defer maintenance. It turns into a bigger problem down the road, and we're just kicking the can down the road. So I'm for moving ahead with that resolution.
Okay, have a motion? Is that a motion, Mark?
If there's no other discussion, that would be a motion.
I have a motion from Cross, and I thought a second from Todd. Now, is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call.
Sorry, I muted myself. Cross,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Tabit,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. We'll move on to 8A, 2021 Enterprise Funds Budget. Brad, any other conversation, comments on that?
No, obviously, Finance Director Vasinek presented the proposed enterprise fund budget. We've allotted time during the regular council meeting to continue that discussion, or if it appeases the council, they can, or you can make a motion to approve if there are no further discussion, or being that this is relatively fresh, you do have the ability to take the time to digest the information and make a decision at a future council meeting. Unlike the general levy, there's not a time frame in which you have to adopt the budget, but per statute, we have to do that on the real estate taxes. So you do have the opportunity to do as you feel comfortable. So with that, I'll open the floor and we'll see if there's any more questions or discussion that the council wants to have on the matter.
Any further discussion, council? Thoughts you may have had in the last few minutes? Well, it's like we've been saying, nobody likes to increase anything, and certainly understand the times we're in. At the same time, Jeremy has it pretty well laid out to what, and kind of tying into Mark's comments, where we can fall behind also in those areas too if we don't keep up. Make some choices, I guess.
Your Honor and Council, I think that, as Jeremy stated so well, those smaller increases buffer us from the big bill in the future when the bigger expenses that you can kind of see some of those coming down the pike, and I think staff is aware and made us aware. So I think that's prudent, for us to approve these modest increases as recommended. And I would move approval of the enterprise fund budget as presented.
Well, motion by Holman. We got a second by Cross. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Cross,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Tabit,
Yes.
Olson.
And yes. Thank you, everybody, for your input and your work on the budget. It's not easy. I appreciate your efforts and endeavors. We'll move on to council comments. I'll start out with Councilmember Licio.
It's not always an advantage to have to go first, especially when something that kind of hurts my heart. And that is, as we're all aware, this is Councilmember Holman's last meeting. And as I said before, it's probably good we're not in person, or it would be an emotional, ugly cry coming from me. I just want Councilmember Holman to know that I'm so appreciative of over 2.5 years ago, him taking the time to sit down with me personally and just kind of lay it all out there and encourage me to give it a go. And I'm grateful for his leadership and mentorship. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a part of this council, which I'm so proud to play a role in. And Todd, I know you as a man of integrity. I know you as a man of a lot of words, but also one who is a great historian, and you have such a vision for the future as well. I'm really going to miss you, but I'm so happy that you get to move on and maybe get reacquainted with your wife. So thank you for all you've done for the city of Baxter and me as well.
Very good. Thank you. Is that Mr. Tabit?
Thank you. I don't feel like I can pass up the opportunity to follow with agreeing with the statements Connie made there, and just briefly, Mr. Holman, it's been an honor to serve with you, and the city of Baxter is less well off for you not living here. So thank you for your time.
Okay, anybody else? I think we're a little premature there on that.
I guess I'd be next, wouldn't I, Mr. Mayor?
Well, if Todd, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Todd, it's been fun working with you. We've had our disagreements over the years, but it's all worked out well. And the city has benefited from it. And we're going to miss you. I'll probably still see you at camp, but stop in and see me sometime if we get back to normal working hours. And take care. Good luck.
Absolutely will. Thank you.
I didn't mean to jump over Todd, but maybe I'll go first here. Actually, I've got three things I wanted to touch real quickly. Maybe not so quickly, but first of all, in Baxter here, we lost one of our residents this past week, and he was a former mayor. Don O'Brien was a mayor of Baxter for at least 4 years. And then from there, he went on to represent the city of Baxter in this district at Crow Wing Power for many, many years, still representing our city and our interests. And so our condolences go out to his family at their loss of Don. The other hat, another hat that I wear is a Salvation Army hat. And just want to make a plug. Salvation Army, like many other entities, is really is struggling, and the preponderance of the reason is because of COVID. People are scared to ring bells and to be out in public, which totally understand. But it really puts everything in a bind because it's such an important part of our community as far as sharing with and helping other people. But all of that to say that, just to remind you that I think it's Thursday. I know it's the 17th. Is the Caring and Sharing Day, where your contributions, if you were planning on donating to the Salvation Army, I'm certainly hoping that you are, that if you do it on Thursday, it will be matched. So it's a good time to have your investment multiplied, if you will, and that will be happening at both of the Cubs, Brainerd and Baxter, and also their Super Value store in Pequot Lake. So I would encourage you to do that. And then lastly, I would just like to reminisce a little bit about Mr. Holman. I don't think there's anybody more qualified to do that than me. And so I don't want this to be a eulogy, but you know, we're saying goodbye to Todd tonight, and I was honored to work with him at 3 different times. And we both worked for Crow Wing County. He was in the planning and zoning department and didn't have fancy titles back then. I think he was the planning and zoning administrator, and now that's all land services or whatever. But that's where he worked, and I would use his office periodically for information as it related to my job. So that was the first time that I met him and was working with him. And then one night I was sitting in a long-range planning commission meeting, and the city administrator poked his head in. Are you guys hearing me?
Huh?
My picture just went away. So the city administrator put his head in the door, and he said, we're about to hire our first community development director. And of course, and we needed one. Things were really, really taking off. And so everybody, of course, wanted to know who it was. And so he said, well, his name is Todd Holman. So I woke up and I said, are you kidding me? That's fake news. But I gave him a glowing report, and so he was hired on as our first community development director. He started out during a huge growth spurt in our city. We were doing $30 to $40 million in developer-driven expansion, and so he was really baptized by fire. He hit the deck running, trying to establish an office and trying to keep up with the day-to-day rigors of that office. One of the larger, longer, and most contested projects at the time was Walmart And Mark and I and some of the current staff members were a part of that. And you can remember how that went and the busyness of it. Todd was a very busy man in City Hall. You could really never get a hold of him. And I would call City Hall every day of a council meeting, before the council meeting. I still do that today. And of course, you couldn't get through to him because his answering machine was full to the max. So then I'd have to call the receptionist and say, is Holman working today? And she'd say, well, I think so. I said, well, go down the hall and tell him to answer his phone. So she would do that, and eventually he would call me back. But that's the way it was going. It was just so wild there. So then pretty soon he left us for calmer pastures and went to the Nature Conservancy where he could relax. And I don't blame him. I'm sure it looked good to him at the time, but we felt kind of bad that he left us at that time also. But sooner or later, there was a vacancy on the city council. One of our council members at that time had resigned because he was moving, kind of like what Todd is doing now. And so he applied, Todd applied, and he ended up back in the building again. And he's been with us now for several years. I guess he just couldn't get enough of it, I guess. I'm going to miss my straight man, who willingly or more likely unwillingly was a recipient / participant of my one-liners and basic nonsense. And you'll be hard to replace. You did a great job, Zach. In closing, really, Todd and I agreed probably 85%, 95%, let's go with that. We probably agreed 95% of the time. And in the other 5%, there was always respect for the other person's opinions and thought processes. And at the end of the day, there was agreement to move the city forward in a positive direction. Thanks for your service, Todd. You will be greatly missed. I'm just wondering if anybody else would like to say something, or Todd, would you like to?
Yeah. Thank you all. You've all been most kind, and Mayor, it has been my honor and privilege to work with you, this council, and many council members that I've had an opportunity to work with along the way, even as a staff member. The staff and the staff leadership in the city in all divisions, departments, administration, just top drawer. I mean, I really mean that in the most sincere way I can communicate that. The hardworking people that day in and day out are carrying on the services of the city really are unsung heroes in a way. But I will reflect quickly on that memory of when I started in 1999. It was very fast, and as always the case with local government, you're never, the rate of growth is faster than you can staff up and budget for. And that was certainly our case, was playing catch up on all fronts: streets, utilities, police, planning, and so forth. But I still remember Trevor's line, one of the many that I remember, and as a part, he started before I did. But his line was, "You can sleep when you're dead." And he was kind of right. It was just maybe like now, I was just drinking from a fire hose all the time. And we were just scrambling to get things moving forward to deliver the service. And that goes on today. Everybody works so profoundly hard. And I just give my hats off to the staff and certainly the leadership thereof. Our commissioners, the commission people that have supported over the years, new and long-term, they are really invaluable in terms of the work and the grinding and the cranking out of decisions and policy that they do. And then certainly the citizens. This has been a great city to live in. My wife and I chose this city when I was hired to work in Baxter. We moved here from Pillager, but just the community, all the communities within the community, the commercial, the development community, residential communities, just so welcoming and engaging, and you just couldn't say enough about this community to live and raise a family. And we raised our kids here. They went through a wonderful school district here and have fond memories here. And so it's hard for us to kind of leave too kids were just here last weekend packing boxes. And so you can imagine the memory lane, you know, all the reliving of, oh, I remember this, Mrs. So-and-so, and anyway, it's been kind of the glad sads as we get ready to kind of move on to the St. Cloud community. But without doubt, it's been an honor and pleasure to serve with all of you and to serve the city of Baxter. It's been truly my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. There was just one other thing I forgot to mention. Todd, for many of those years, served as our vice mayor. And I never, for one thing, I'm hardly ever gone. But when I was, I didn't have to worry about what he would pull, except for that one time. always did a great job. And so I appreciate your backing me up at that time. Todd, we've got a plaque for you. And I think Kelly or Brad's got maybe a copy of it there. Maybe it's crooked. I'll go ahead and read it. From the City of Baxter to Todd Holman. On behalf of the City Council, Commission members, which you mentioned, city staff, and residents of Baxter, we thank you for your years of service to our city. Your time and efforts directed to the furtherance of the goals of the city have been invaluable and appreciated. Our best wishes go with you as you move on to a new community and future opportunities that you may pursue. Signed by the Baxter City Council and myself, December 15th, 2020. So we really do appreciate you and wanted you to take something with you. And so if you happen to get the memo, the email asking for funds, you don't have to participate if you don't want to. It's up to you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, was there any other guests or?
Yes, I believe that there is one guest that's in the waiting room that's going to join us here.
I thought I saw somebody. Future opportunities that you.
Yes, there he is.
City Council and myself.
Hi, Santa.
2020.
My favorite guy.
I wanted you to take something with you. And so if you happen to get the memo, the email. Sure what's going on there.
Santa, do you have a few words for us?
Oh, am I on now? Is
yes.
Now? Huh?
Yes.
Hey, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Yes, I believe that there's one guest that's in the
Mr. Mayor,
to join us here.
Council, staffers. I'm watching, Santa's watching on a different computer, so I didn't know when Santa was on, but hey, everybody, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. And Santa just wanted to stop by and wish everybody in the city of Baxter Merry Christmas. I want to thank all of the mayor and the city council and the staff. They're doing remarkable for the city of Baxter. And I know that there's a very special person tonight, Councilor Holman. You've been a very, very good boy. A very good boy. Santa's going to make sure that you get a very nice present. And all of you have been doing you've been good boys and girls. Brad, we got to talk a little bit about you, but the rest of you have been doing really good.
Hey, Santa, check out the holiday contest.
The holiday contest, the lighting contest. Councilor Lucio, thank you for getting that going. So
well,
I just wanted to
say, and fly over and look at all those beautiful homes, would you please?
Oh, Santa's been over them already, and they're beautiful, beautiful. So Merry Christmas all. God bless everybody. Stay safe. And Councilman Holman, enjoy the rest of your time in whatever you do. You deserve the best. Ho, 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 ho. Goodbye now, City of Baxter resident. Goodbye.
We'll see you. Okay. Well, that was a surprise. I thought I heard somebody up on the roof. I just wasn't sure.
You know, I had a feeling too.
All right, City Administrator.
Yes, I would be remorsed if I didn't say my thank you to Councilmember Holman. You're one of the 5 individuals who made the decision and gave me the opportunity to serve this great community, and I'll be ever grateful to have that privilege in doing so. There's not anything, or there's not much within the city of Baxter which doesn't have your thumbprint. And your legacy has been solidified, and it's been a pleasure to work with you in the 3.5 years that I've had to serve with you. And I wish you nothing but the best as you move forward in your career and your life.
Okay, is that it?
That is all I have, Mayor.
Okay, city attorney.
Also would like to thank Todd for all of his years of service and looking for a closed session motion to go into closed session on the 2 items shown on the agenda.
Okay,
Tony will make a motion to go into closed.
motion by Licio, second by Cross. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Cross,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Licio,
Here,
Abbott, and Olson.
Yes. Just for further instruction, we will be coming back into open session when we're done with the close, if anybody wants to hang around. But at this time, we'll be going into a closed session. So thanks for joining us. Have a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
pressure to fluidize that filter. Oh,
We're back, Eric.
Okay, we are back in open session from our closed meeting. And look for a couple of motions here on things that we've decided tonight. City Attorney, want to lead us through A there?
Sure, just looking for a motion to authorize staff to present the easement offers as set forth in the closed session.
Okay.
So moved.
A motion by Cross,
Second.
second by Tabbitt. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Cross,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Tabbitt,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Second item B, Brad, you want to lead us through that one?
Yeah, so looking for a motion to approve the 2021-2022 collective bargaining agreement with LELS 312 and the support documentation for the inclusion of the MOUs for healthcare review and for the compensation study to be completed in 2022.
Just a quick question there. Is that public information or we're still negotiating?
No, the LELS 312 is an agreement that it will be public record once you approve it.
Yeah, I got you.
Connie will make, whoop,
Go ahead.
Connie will make a motion to approve the agreement.
Motion by Licio,
Second.
second by Cross. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Cross,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Tabbitt,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Okay, and the rest is still negotiated, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I think we're done. And again, I want to thank everybody for a great year. I mean, it's been a terrible year, but a great year. I appreciate all of your efforts and your work and helping us get through this, and staff. Everybody has worked doubly hard. I know inside of the building has been handicapped, if you will, from time to time with people covering for each other and just doing a great job and keeping the city moving. So appreciate that. I know the council does too. And I appreciate all of you. And I want nothing but the best for you as you celebrate the season, and look forward to working with most all of you again next year. And, have a great time with your families. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Merry Christmas. Be well.
I think it's only appropriate. There's only one person that can really adjourn this meeting.
Oh.
Well, normally that would be you, but
I normally would, but I need to pass it tonight.
I will move to adjourn.
motion by Holman,
Second.
second by Cross. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Cross,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Tabbitt,
Yes.
Licio,
Sadly, yes.
and Olson.
Yes. And Todd, I don't know where you are. We got your certificate, your plaque here, so it's at my house. So
Okay.
whatever works out. Okay. Have a great evening.